welcome back to another episode of Casting with Jay, with me, Jay. Now, before I get into today's video, I just want to take a minute to say where I have been the past couple months. I know I said I wanted to upload pretty regularly. Life has been very busy lately. Moved into a new apartment, and I've been working full-time. Between those two things, I haven't been able to get out and fish as much. And the times that I have been able to get out and fish, there hasn't been the best content or, fish catches to actually make some sort of video for you guys. But now that I'm settled into the new apartment, kind of got my little fish corner here, looking to kind of like decorate some of the walls and stuff. Now that I'm kind of settled in, looking forward to starting to make some more videos for you guys. Second note, if I look defeated today, that's because I am. The last week I've gone out and fished 3 times, trying to make a video for you guys, some fall fishing kind of stuff. It's right before Halloween right now, when I'm uploading this video, or when I'm filming this video. I'll probably upload it in a day or two. But anyway, I've gone out 3 times, gotten skunked each time. I hadn't gone out for that long. It was just like 2 to 3 to 4 hours here or there. I don't know what's going on with the fish here in Minnesota. I don't know if it's just too early yet to be full-on fall fishing, where they're actually feeding, or what. But so if I look defeated, that's where I'm at today. I just got in from trying to fish, so. But that's where it brings me to today's video. Alright, so upon coming in today from trying to fish, I thought this might be a good opportunity to start my tutorial videos, if you guys want to call them that. So I know when I first started this channel, I definitely said I wanted to be more tutorial based, be more hands-on, showing you guys tips and tricks, baits, techniques, all sorts of stuff, trying to help people who are just getting into fishing maybe fare off a little bit better. There's tons of fishing YouTube channels out there. I want to be one that does more tutorial based stuff. So I thought today would be a good opportunity to start that. And how I'm going to kind of approach it is in this way. I'm going to look at someone who has really never fished before, at least on their own, or started to take it seriously. Maybe you're just starting to buy your own gear. Maybe you're going out to get your first fishing rod and reel. So I'm going to take it in that approach. If this is something that might be a little, if you think you're too advanced for this, maybe it might be a refresher, otherwise there's going to be more videos to come talking about other things. But to start off with this, I'm going to kind of get into it real slowly, right from the basics. So hopefully it can help some anglers out there that are maybe watching this video learn something that they didn't know beforehand. So that's kind of the way I want to approach this video and these tutorial style videos. So I'm looking forward to bringing you guys some of this content here. Now also, another side note, before I get into today's video and all these other tutorial videos, I am by no means an expert in anything, even fishing or whatever. So I'm just going to kind of talk about these things based on my knowledge, my experiences, and my preferences. I'm going to try to keep it as simple and unbiased as possible. But again, I'm not an expert in anything. I don't know everything. This is just kind of what I know based off of my own knowledge and experiences. So now that we got that disclaimer kind of out of the way, let's start today's first ever tutorial fishing video brought to you by Casting with Jay. Alright, so getting on with this video, I'm going to try to keep it relatively short. I know it's not the funnest thing to sit here and listen to me talk, so I'm going to try to keep it as short as I can. But starting today, we're going to start with the fishing rod. So let's say you're someone who has never really had their own rod. You've always used your parents' equipment or your friends' equipment. Now you're starting to look to get your own rod. Before I start, same thing. Well, I guess I'll start with this. There's really 2 main types of fishing rods. There's ones that are called casting rod, such as this, which are designed to fit a bait casting style reel, like you see here. So the line guides on those are going to be facing upwards, just because that's the way the line comes off the reel. And then also you have spinning rods, which are designed to fit a spinning reel. Kind of makes sense. And with this one, the line guides are facing the bottom, again, because that's the way the line comes off the reel. So everything I talk about today is going to be able to be applied to a spinning rod and a casting rod. Just for today's sake, I'm going to talk with the casting rod, but again, all this applies for both types of rods. So, when you're thinking about getting your own first fishing rod, there's really three main components you want to look at. Well, four, I guess. One, price range. When you're starting off fishing, you definitely don't need to go buy the most expensive, highest end, highest quality rod, reel, line, bait, whatever. Start off with something that's in your budget, that you're not going to break the bank with, just so you can kind of see how it works, see if you like it, get a feel for it, and if something happens to it, breaks, gets lost, gets stolen, whatever, you're not out, a couple $100 or whatever. Start with something that's in your budget, that allows you to get used to it first. So that is the main thing first. Now, there's three other things you want to look for when you're buying a rod. The first thing is the rod length. So the rod length for bass fishing, in general, the longer the rod is, the longer you're going to be able to cast. It's going to be designed for baits that are going to be able to cover water and find active fish, more power fishing techniques. So using crankbaits, spinner baits, chatter baits, a lot of moving reaction style baits. A longer rod is going to let you cast farther to search and cover more of that water. A shorter rod is going to be the opposite. You're going to be able to cast not quite as far, but you are going to be able to make more accurate casts. So it's going to be nice for target casting. So if you're flipping and pitching, something a little on the shorter end, or in the mid-range would be good. If you're fishing around like in a marina or something with tons of docks and boats around, where you're not going to be making bomb casts around, a shorter rod might be good. If you're traveling a lot, some people don't think about this sort of stuff, but if you're traveling a lot, shorter rods you can be able to fit in your car, in your truck, whatever. Kayak fishermen a lot of times like shorter rods just because it's easier for transportation, easier to throw them on the kayak, things like that. So that's kind of the main focus with the rod length. Bass fishing rods can come anywhere between like 6 all the way up to 7, 6, 7, 8. They're kind of the main ones. You can find some on either end of that spectrum too, but we won't talk about what applications are for each rod. But longer the rod, longer casts, shorter the rod, shorter casts, more accurate. That's rod length. Alright, so now that we talked about rod length, the next spec when looking to buy or acquire a new fishing rod is going to be the power. And basically what the power is a way to describe how much force or strength is needed to actually bend the rod. Power is kind of measured in 3 categories, I'd say. It goes from light to medium or moderate to heavy. Now there's some in between and some on the opposite sides of that too. So there's like ultra light, light, medium, medium heavy, heavy, extra heavy. But those are kind of the main 3 aspects of it. So with like a light or ultra light rod, it's going to take less force to bend that rod. So that's going to be good for like trout fishing, panfish fishing, where you're not catching these big gigantic fish, where they're going to snap your rod or something like that. And it's also going to be good to see bites, feel bites. They're more sensitive. This rod here is I think it's a medium heavy. So this is going to be kind of in the moderate area of strength that's needed to bend the rod, and that's going to be like a good all-around application for bass fishing. It's going to be used for jerk baits, crankbaits, some lighter jigs, swim baits, stuff like that. It's going to be kind of a good all-around jack of all trades kind of power for a lot of fishing. Now, heavy or extra heavy, that's going to get used for flipping into heavy cover where you need to, get the fish out, where you might be getting snagged on some heavy cover. So you're going to be using that with a lot of jigs, some really like deep diving crankbaits, or some big swim baits or something like that. So that's going to be kind of the power. It's just basically how much force is required to actually bend or engage the rod, mostly when you're fighting a fish. Alright, so with power out of the way and length, last but not least is the action of the rod. Now, action can kind of be best described as where along the fishing rod it starts to bend. So if you have a fast action rod, it's going to start bending more towards the top, and that's going to act as kind of like a shock absorber. So a fast action is good for fighting, bigger fish, so bass. You don't really need it for, panfish as much, but bass specifically, it's used. So a fast action rod is going to have a more bendy tip, so it's going to give you more leeway, more give when you're fighting a fish. It's going to be good for if you're using, especially like treble hook style baits. This is kind of one of the only examples I can really go on from experience, but if you're using a treble hook style bait, having a fast action tip rod is good, because those hooks they tend to get ripped out of the fish's mouth if you have too stiff of a rod. So if you have a faster action rod, it lets the fish have some play with those hooks, so you won't rip them out, and it'll tire the fish out a little bit more. If you have a less than fast, like a medium action rod or moderate action rod, it's going to start bending more towards the handle, and that's going to be used for a single, like a jig or any kind of jig hook, or a single hook that you really need to drive the hook home through the fish's mouth. So a stiff rod is going to be good for that, and that's kind of the only example that I know of, at least, where those action comes into play. Most rods are going to be fast action for bass anglers for the most part, but you can find some other ones there. But so if it's a faster action, it's good for treble hook style baits. You don't rip the hook out of the fish's mouth. Has more give, more leeway. And if you have a stiffer rod or a stiffer action, it's good for like a single sail hook where you really need to drive that hook home through the fish's mouth. So a jig or a shaky head or something like that, where you really need to set the hook. Alright, and so with those three things in mind, those are kind of the main keys of buying a new fishing rod. So when you go to a store, it'll have the specs on it. It'll say the length, the action, and the power listed on there. And just think about what you're going to be fishing. Are you going to be fishing in a lot of open water where you kind of have that leeway to use a longer rod? Are you going to be using a lot of topwater baits that have treble hook style baits, like a prop bait or a spook or something like that, where you're going to need kind of a faster action, faster tip, lighter tip? And then the power, are you going to be, what kind of cover are you going to be fishing? Or is there a lot of pitching and flipping under docks where you're going to need that extra backbone? What kind of baits you're going to be using for the fish? All these things are going to be taken into account when buying a new fishing rod. But those are kind of the basics. I want to keep the video short and sweet. If you guys have any questions, definitely be sure to let me know in the comments or ask me on Instagram, or I'll have my email contact link down below as well. Definitely email me. I can either respond to you personally or make a new video out of it. But those are the basics of buying a fishing rod. Don't break the bank. Pay attention to your power, action, and length, and you guys will be good to go out on the water. So thank you guys for tuning into this tutorial video. Take care, and I hope to see you guys on the next one.